So, final remarks, trends and challenges by Signe Jungersted. She is the CEO and founding partner in Innovation and Strategy Agency Group NAO from Denmark. Please.
Ta-da. Hi. Is there a clicker? There. All right. Okay, so hi everyone. It is my pleasure to be given the honor of the final remarks, and I know that we are under some time pressure. So the good news is I practically only have one slide. And the other good news is that I made it really open for interpretation, because as the final remarks, I didn't actually know what I was going to hear. But I called my presentation, or my final remarks, those of you who may notice that in some LinkedIn post somewhere, I called it Tourism Lost in Space ? And I think that came up because last time I had the pleasure of being part of this event was in 2020, when I spoke virtually. And we were talking about building back better. And when Asta asked me about a title for my presentation, I was feeling very disillusioned. Like, are we really building back better? And we're past the pandemic, and what has really happened? And so that's where it came from. But then today, I've listened to all of you, and I feel slightly differently about this. I feel more optimistic. I think there are many, many great ideas, many great companies, initiatives, thinking that we've been introduced to today. And so, in a sense, I'm going to sort of tweak my presentation or my final remarks a little bit in that direction. I will also say I'm excited because in many ways it feels like we're living history, right? I mean, just the presentation now on ChatGPT and the opportunities and of course all the potential challenges of that as well. In many ways it feels like, you know, if you'd asked me like 5, maybe 10 years ago, I'd be like, I wish I remember when like the internet really happened and when it kind of took on. But I don't really remember that sort of feeling of significance, but I feel that now. I feel that we're living history. In many ways, we've felt that now, I think, for a couple of years, because we've also been through a pandemic crisis, and we're also feeling that sort of wave of multiple other crises. Everyone seems to be talking about perma-crisis, poly-crisis, more pandemics coming, war in Ukraine, economic recession, biodiversity and climate change. There are many, many crises that face us, that face our global communities, our global societies, and that also face tourism, travel, and the sector that we all work in. And so that can leave us feel a little bit lost in space, I guess. But one of the reasons I'm also optimistic today is that, maybe a little bit contrary to my expectations, I do feel that it's been about humans. It's been about us as people quite a bit, through technology, maybe even sort of leveraged or lifted through technology, but still with the human in the center of everything, right? And I also think that coming out of the pandemic, that's what's a little bit exciting, to see how we, as sort of a collective humanity, are reacting to these crisis that we're living through, this history that we're living through. So maybe some of you are familiar with, but in psychology, there's this thing where we talk about post-traumatic growth. So it's kind of almost a psychological positive reaction to crisis. And in coming out of the pandemic crisis, we can almost see that in how we as human beings consume, how we behave, how we connect with each other, and how we travel. So there are like 3 characteristics that can be highlighted from post-traumatic growth. And they are sort of a YOLO moment, that's hence the sort of parachute. You only live once, I want to go travel, I want to go experience, I want to live my life. There's also a different reaction, which is I need to connect. I need to connect with other people. I need to feel like I'm part of something, part of a community. I need to be close to those that I feel close to. And then finally, a moment of transformation. I need to do something with my life. I need to change something. I need to give it meaning. And so in travel, we're seeing that right now. We're seeing both a moment of like traveling regardless. Yes, war in Ukraine. Yes, economic recession. But still, all market research shows that people are prioritizing going to travel. We just saw a quote by Hans Christian Andersen, who also happens to be my country fellowman. To travel is to live, and we're kind of seeing that expression right now coming out. Now, another thing we're seeing is sort of need for balance, seeking a personal work-life balance, and I think it was so fascinating to hear how many of the presentations today actually pointed to that, how technology is helping us become more efficient in our lives, and that will also help us prioritize time with our families. And then, of course, we're also seeing a transformation in terms of leaving our jobs, quitting, and especially within hospitality and tourism, leaving service jobs or wanting better jobs, wanting a different kind of life. And so, again, technology is helping a lot of the industry addressing those labor shortages or that workforce crisis. Then, of course, in travel behavior, we're seeing a lot of this sort of giving meaning through a more conscious, a more aware type of travel. Flight shaming has kind of shifted into train bragging. So rather than being that very negative shaming, it's becoming more and more of an optimistic, how can you take action? There's an awareness of our footprint when we travel, and how do we address that? Still, you see a certain gap between the say and the do. Is that me? No, it's just here. And then finally, of course, there's a much more attention to being a good traveler, that we also want to leave a positive impression and a positive footprint when we do. I don't think I can use this because there's an error thing. This is just to show us that we're really needing to go on time. There you go. All right. And then on top of that, of course, technology is all part of helping us address some of these new needs, these new behaviors, this new search for meaning and transformation. We heard so many examples of it today, but I also think that it follows from that there's also a level of then drawing it back to humans, drawing back to that human connection that we're looking for. Because as we just saw with the ChatGPT and with multiple other presentations, it's really also building on a human need for trust. Who can we trust? We had that example from, Tour Desk, that was really building on the trust that people feel to the people that they stay with, the accommodation place, rather than, I think you called it Ice Holiday 421 on TripAdvisor. And so all of that really sort of leads to a new need to that human connection, and how tech can help us layer those experiences and help us with that human connection. So no one wants to feel like the alien. Rather, we want to feel part of the destination we're traveling to, part of a community, even part of a community like this. We want to leave a positive impression, and we want to be part of a community that shares the human values, that human connection. So I'm going to leave this event feeling otherwise optimistic about the future through technology, that it's going to leverage us as humans and the human connection that we share, not necessarily eliminate us, just to be finishing on a really dark note. So thank you very much, and there are now drinks and time to network.